Be talking very briefly about how to make a case for graduate programs, specifically in the educational and probably more political climate in Texas. And we all heard the commissioner yesterday how important really the workforce demand is. And I'm going to be specifically focusing on that element and what we're doing at Texas State. That's what Joanne asked me to do. This is a presentation that I put together with a colleague of mine, Dr. Debbie Thorne, our Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs. She oversees curriculum services on our campus. Our two offices work extremely closely together when we're proposing new degree programs. So on our campus, our new program development is entirely driven by the strategic plan. That means that a new program can only go forward if it has been on the departmental strategic plan, the college strategic plan, and on the provost strategic plan. If it is on the strategic plan of the provost, that also means that when this program gets approved, the funding for that program is automatically available. So whatever kind of revenue there is at the university, it gets taken, the top part that gets taken out is for new programs that are on the provost strategic plan. So when we propose a program and a program goes forward and has been approved and gets approved by the coordinating board, the faculty know that the money is there. It may not be all there, but the majority, everything, it will be in place so that the program can run fully and successfully. We also have an extremely collaborative and reiterative writing process that involves the Curriculum Services Office, the Graduate College, the Academic Dean, the department, and the proposal writers. And I'm going to be explaining this a little bit more. So there are various steps and resources that we provide at various steps. So at the pre-writing stage, when the program first has the idea of wanting to create a new degree program, we hold workshops on the coordinating board's requirements with an emphasis on the job market need, and we explain how a program needs to show to the coordinating board that there is a need. And we always emphasize that this might not be the most logical thing or how graduate education actually works in the world, but that this is the argument that needs to be made in order to be successful with the coordinating board. We provide a PowerPoint. Part of it, what I'm showing here, is part of the workshop that we provide. We show a PowerPoint. We have a video of the workshop that is available to programs so that they can go back to it when they actually get to the writing stage. We have an online toolkit with past successful proposals so that they can see how other programs have made the case, and so that they can use some of the techniques that other programs, some of the surveys that maybe departments have done, that this is available to them as well. We also give them budget development help. So our budget office, when the proposal has come to that stage where we have identified, yes, there is a need, then there's help in putting together the budget, so that the faculty aren't just all alone in this process. At the writing stage, again, it's a reiterative process. So a program starts out, we always have them start out with a needs section. They write something and then they submit it to the graduate college and to curriculum services to Dr. Thorne, and we read it and we provide comments, inline comments in the margins using the wonderful editing features of Word. We send it back to the department. We have a meeting with the department. We discuss what they need to do differently, why the argument that they are making is not going to be persuasive to the coordinating board. Programs very often confuse student demand with workforce need. And so we spend a lot of time on that, and we provide a lot of information. We ask a lot of questions so that really, for us, the workforce needs section is really the most important element. Usually programs in the departments provide financial support to the faculty members who are writing proposals. Sometimes it's workload credit. They get editorial help. We have a lot of international faculty who are also writing proposals, and then it becomes particularly important to also provide additional help. And we always have, once the proposal is in a stage where we are happy with it, we always, on our own expense, bring in an external review team that is commissioned by the university that takes a very close look at the proposal, particularly at the doctoral level. We don't do that for all master's programs, but certainly for doctoral programs, we bring in a review team that looks exactly at the Workforce Commission requirements and at the proposal interviews all sorts of stakeholders on campus and off campus, and then writes a report for us and tells us where they perceive there to be difficulties or issues that we need to address. We address them in the proposal, and only at that point, does the proposal actually enter into the curriculum approval process. So we do all of the other work outside of it, so that when it goes to the curriculum approval process, at that point, then it hopefully goes pretty quickly and moves forward with minimal revisions at that point. So you're all aware of the needs section. I'm not going to read all this, but you know that it is job market need, existing programs, student demand, student recruitment, and enrollment projections. So basically, the fundamental expectations of the coordinating board are that to demonstrate that jobs will be available for program graduates in Texas, so that there will be jobs in Texas, ideally for Texans. We have to have an understanding of similar programs that already exist in Texas, and particularly at public institutions. The private somehow, that doesn't matter if there are programs in the privates. We always say if there aren't programs in the private universities, you want to mention that. If there are plenty at the privates, leave it out. The coordinating board is not interested in them. So use that to your advantage. And so there's already some illogic there with the coordinating board. We say, just don't argue with that, just go with the flow. This is the argument you have to make. You need to calculate the gap between jobs that are available in Texas and graduates of existing programs in Texas. And only if that gap is big enough will your proposal have any chance of being approved. And we then supplement the workforce projections with additional data and information. So how do we go about doing that? So jobs available for program graduates. We always ask our programs to first identify the CIP code of the proposed programs. And you know that CIP codes were created for all graduate programs at the state and at the federal level, so that reporting could be done more consistently, that programs can be categorized. There is about 1,600 CIP codes that are categorized under 39 broad categories. And so we always ask the program, okay, let's look up the CIP code. You then use the CIP code in comparison with the standard optional classification system for jobs that are available to identify the occupations that are identified with a particular CIP code. You then review the occupations to determine the level of education that is typically required. And then you review the Texas Workforce Commission Bureau of Labor Statistics workforce projections for the occupations identified in order to find if there is a gap. So I'm going to walk you through that. So determine CIP codes of proposed programs. And the URL is in green. You will get the PowerPoint, so you have it. You can click on it. I'll just walk you through it. Just let's imagine we wanted to create a new program in landscape architecture. I couldn't think of anything else. So landscape architecture is what we wanted to do. And we want to find out, okay, what is the CIP code? This is what we will find when we're done. If we go to these links, we will see the 39 characteristics. There are only 35 on this particular slide. I couldn't fit them all 39 on there. But under number 4, you will find architecture and related services. So landscape architecture is likely going to fall in there, so we're going to click on that. We get to the next page. We then find the rest of the CIP code. We'll find our landscape architecture. So we now know the CIP code that exists for landscape architecture. Now we have to look to find the occupations that are associated with that particular CIP code. And as I said, one uses the standard optional classification system to classify that. And so there are very, very broad occupational categories for that. So there are 840 actually detailed occupational codes that are classified into 23 major categories. And when we have looked this up, we will find that there are architectural engineering managers, there are landscape architects, there are architecture teachers, and post-secondary teachers as well. So in order to find that crosswalk, we would look at that particular link. And when we do, we get to this particular page. And at the very bottom, data's a little bit old, but there is the crosswalk. You would click on that. And then when you go through it, you can then find your CIP code, which was 040601, and then you can see these various, the 3 different positions that are associated, or 3 different types of jobs that are associated with this particular CIP code. All right, so we got those. So the next step then is to review the occupations to determine the level of education that is typically required. And if you want to propose a master's degree, then you hope that they require the master's degree. If you want to propose a PhD, you hope that they require the PhD. So our folks in landscape architecture won't be too happy when they're done with this, because when we go to the website that looks for that, we will find that for architectural engineering managers, the entry-level position is a bachelor's degree. For landscape architects, the entry level is the bachelor's degree. For architecture teachers and post-secondary, it's the doctoral degree. Now, so how do we find that? So if we go into that little green link that you can't read too well here, you will get to this particular occupational handbook, and then you would search for the occupations that you've identified before, and you get an entire database that gives you all sorts of information about a wide variety of jobs. This handbook has several hundred jobs in there that it provides information about the duties, the education, the training required, the pay that individuals get, etc. And you can, so you would enter the information up here, you would search for it, and then you will find out that indeed for these positions, for a lot of them, the bachelor is required. Now that's entry-level positions, so you would then have to find, if you really wanted to propose a master's degree, you would then have to find ways of showing that for leadership positions in these areas, you need the master's degree. And so you have to do a little bit more digging. Now, we wanted to then, for the positions that we've identified, we then go about finding out what the workforce projections really are for these particular positions. And again, there are links that the PowerPoint has that you can go to. And what you then find is this, and I'll walk you through it, is basically you get a page where you type in the selected area, and it gives you examples here of that you want to pick Texas. You click on continue. You want to know the time period for which there are workforce projections. You click on continue. And you then want to pick an occupation code from the SOC table. You type in you select for your job that you've identified before. You go ahead and you select the data series. You then click on View Data. And you will then get, once you've done that, you will then get that for landscape architects, the estimated employment is 780. The projected employment is 940. It's a change of 180. It's a 23.7% change over that time span. That makes for an annual growth of 20. And then they have a projection about the annual openings related to replacements of folks retiring, moving away is also 20. So we now know that per year we have a whopping 40 people in terms of that will be required. So we have 40 annual job openings. And so now the question becomes, okay, how many folks does Texas already produce to fill these 40 positions? Is there enough of a gap so that we can have a graduate program and produce more folks? Well, in order to do that, you go back to the coordinating board web pages, and there is a link again that you're looking, where you can look this information up, and to see what kinds of programs in this particular CIP code are offered in the state of Texas. And then, of course, you can also look at the individual university web pages to see if it is indeed the degree that you thought it would be. So they have a program inventory. You go to you pick the type of institution that you want. You want to pick the publics, not the privates. You put in the degree level. You put in the CIP code. And then what you will find is that there are a variety of universities. So there are 2 bachelor programs and 4 master's programs already in landscape architecture. And now you want to see, okay, we know that there are these 6 universities, or these 6 programs, so how many people do they produce? And again, the coordinating board has a page where you can look this up, what the graduation rates, what the degrees awarded are at these universities. And if you follow the link, you can then pick degrees awarded. And then you go to the next link and look at by award level and curriculum area. You pick your public institution up top. You pick the institutions that you've identified that produce the degrees. And then you check the level. You pick the range of years that where you want to see how many people they have graduated. You pick the curriculum area and you hit the magic button. You probably are nervous when you hit that button. And what you will find is that at this is the school, we have, this is the baccalaureate level. And somehow the coordinating board reads from right to left. So that the older data is here and the newest data is here. Go figure, but this is something we have to point out to programs, that they read the table the right way. We can already see that at the bachelor's level, in that particular year, 35 students graduated with this degree. And then we have here for the master's level, Texas A&M, Texas Tech, UT Arlington, and UT Austin have a total of 38 students at the master's level that they graduated. So we now know that Texas public institutions are graduating 70 plus students each year with landscape architecture degrees, and we have 40 openings. So that doesn't look too good for creating a new master's program. Now, so what about we have, this is for the landscape architects that we've identified. We identified 2 other positions, though, occupations that are associated with it, and you would reiterate this whole process for the other 2 positions. I'm not going to walk you through that because it's the same process. So when you are done with all 3 occupations, you can see that Texas needs over 750 architecture and engineering managers per year when you go through that. And that they approximately need 30 post-secondary teachers of architecture per year. But unfortunately, for those types of positions, landscape architecture is not the only degree that will prepare individuals, because obviously for an engineering manager, you can also have an engineering degree. So there you would have to go over it and see, again, what other positions might prepare for this particular degree, and what do the graduates in these areas, what do they look like. So here then you would have to incorporate broader architecture programs and graduates in the state. And so then you would need some supplemental surveys and support that are needed. So this would be a very difficult new program to propose. So don't have your campuses develop landscape architecture degrees. In other areas, it looks much better. You go to the data and you see that the workforce data is really that we really need that there are a lot of jobs available and that there are only very few graduates. That is a slam dunk. Then the program can kind of move forward with the other areas of the proposal development. So other supplemental support that we provide, our institution has a lot of information on peer institutions. We have our own institutional research reports. I love our institutional research office. I've never been on a campus where they have so much data and are so willing to help. So if you are not friendly with the institutional research team, take them out to lunch. They're the most important people in this process that you can have to really support you in your work. There are also reports and databases provided by professional organizations, which can be very, very useful, because sometimes it happens that a professional organization says that the minimum criteria for entering into the profession will change from a bachelor's level to a master's level. Well, that's golden. That's really wonderful support. There are also reports and databases that are provided by accreditation agencies that can be very, very useful. And I'm about to stop here. Just a couple of lessons that we've learned. You need to have a strong undergraduate program in order to have a master's program. It doesn't look good if your undergraduate program is floundering if you're wanting to propose a master's degree. And the same is true for master's, the relationship between master's programs and doctoral programs. Again, on our campus, only programs on the strategic plan move forward. If you don't have it on your strategic plan, don't bother, unless you have a mega donor. For doctoral programs, we also require that the faculty must have really strong research records. Otherwise, it will not move forward. Now, when we are proposing a new degree program, particularly at the doctoral level, it can turn out that, the department usually wants to start out with a program. And the courses that it will taking, the concentrations, and every faculty member, of course, wants to have their specialization as one of the major tracks. And what we have very often found is that not all specializations, all tracks really have the required workforce need. And then it really becomes a discussion with the department to say we're moving forward with the ones that are viable right now, where we can make the workforce need. It's always easier to add a concentration later on, and even if your major area is not one of the tracks, you as a faculty member can still be involved with the doctoral students. It's a difficult conversation, but it's one that really needs to be had, because if the program moves forward, we won't let them move forward if there isn't job market need for the concentrations we propose. So it is really important to communicate with faculty often, frequently, openly about this entire process. Yes, I already mentioned that these are elements that we do provide. So on our campus, it really is, we have stopped programs from moving forward when we have found that the workforce need was not there. And we've also had programs who, when they went through this exercise, realized that what they had originally envisioned for a graduate program wasn't quite workable, but something similar or a different spin on things might work. And so that they've then adjusted their thinking about what kind of graduate program they can offer and in which areas they can help prepare the workforce. So, tour de force.